As a clutter confidant, I've always been fascinated by the story behind our stuff. I created this space to honor the things we choose to keep and those we're ready to release. My name is Twee, and this is the story behind it. Hello, everyone. This is episode 4 of season 2, and today I have Tony Wisdom Gaines. He is a friend that I met. I'm sure you'll hear us talk about the Gupta family, unconditional, loving, giving, everything receiving clubhouse room. And he is really a catalyst to why season 2 started. So we might not get into that. And if we don't, I just want to give him credit where credit is due. I was on Tony's wonderful show called Deeply Rooted. And from there, he introduced me to this wonderful platform. He just took up all the obstacles away from what was holding me back from sharing these stories. And I'm just so grateful for that because there are so many stories to be shared, his included. And I'm very excited. So I'm going to bring Tony in.
Hi.
Here we go. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Twee. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. I looking forward to a day hanging out with my boys. We got basketball all day, so that's my happy place.
Lovely. It is on the weekends too. I really enjoy just being with the boys with no distractions and doing the things that are fun for the family.
Absolutely.
So how would
So
you
I'm
like to
excited to
introduce
be here.
yourself? I'm excited too. How
Uh,
would you introduce yourself?
um, you know, a couple years ago that might have been a different introduction, but I'm Tony Wisdom. I am shining light. I am a ray of light, right? And I've my life has kind of shifted in the last couple years from doing things for literally, or maybe no reason at all, to living my life in service, just helping other people where I can. I spend a lot of time focusing on myself. So that's why my answer is short. I'm just a shining light, you know.
That's all you need to be, Tony, and that's really all that you are. Everything that you do does shine a light on yourself and on others. I have really experienced that in our interactions together. And if we get into it later, you can share what that shift was. But we can start with the thing that you brought that you'd like to share.
Okay, are we doing what I want to keep or what I want to get rid of?
Up to you.
Okay, so here we are. Right? Okay, this is Michael Jackson Thriller album. And the reason I kept that, um, it represents some of the best times in my life that I had with my mother growing up. Um, this is a Saturday morning in our house when we're cleaning. Um, and it really, my parents, I never remember my parents being together. So I was always either with one of them or the other one. And for the first 8 to 9 years of my life, I was with my mom. And she was my first best friend. And she was 19 when she had me. And we kind of raised each other, you know? And this album in particular, this is the Thriller album. And I remember when this came out, very first song, I believe it was Beat It, but I was at my mom's friend's house and her friend's son wasn't there. So I was playing around in his room and he had these headphones that had a radio on them. So I was just playing around and the radio comes on and it's like brand new from Michael Jackson, a new album, Thriller. And I just remember running downstairs and being like, Mom, like Michael Jackson has a new album, because Off the Wall was the one that I was introduced to. It was the one we listened to the most, right? And this Thriller album came out, and that particular moment just really represents one of the bonds I had with my mother. And it was our love of music, our love of Michael Jackson in particular. And that showed up. I lost my mother 3 years ago. She had a stroke 7 years prior to her dying, and which really kind of affected her mentally. And she had she was diagnosed with bipolar, and also added on an opioid addiction to it. So the last few years of her life were tough. Just because she wasn't all there, and she's so strong-willed and she wanted to be independent, but there was just things we couldn't let her do. And my youngest son Zion was born after she had the stroke, so he never really knew her how she actually was, and he found a love for Michael Jackson when he was 4 or 5 years old. Like, he used to just sit on his iPad and watch YouTube videos of just Michael Jackson. Like, he probably knows more Michael Jackson than I do, right? And my mom and him had this weird little bond. And one of the best nights of my life, it was my mother's birthday, and she didn't want to do anything. She didn't want a whole bunch of people. She couldn't really take a bunch of people. And so I get Zion and I go pick her up, and I don't tell her where we're going. And she's so annoyed with me. And we get there, and it's a Michael Jackson impersonator, because obviously at this time Michael Jackson is long gone, right? But her and my son watching these two enjoy this music and dance, and it literally was I don't cry. It was literally one of the best days of my life, right? And on top of that, I kind of skipped over, but when I was in sixth grade, Michael Jackson The Bad album came out, and my mom took me, right? Like, out of all the kids I know, I was the only one that got to go, like, from my school. And it was such an amazing concert. So when my mom passed, she had all of her records, and there was a lot. She had hundreds of records. And I didn't really want to tote around a bunch of records for the rest of my life. I really didn't. They're heavy, they're bulky. So what I actually did was I went through and I found every single album on Apple Music, and I just made a playlist of everything that my mother had. And I kept this. So that's the story.
I knew that you were going to tell us a story from your heart, but that was really I just saw deep into your heart and your story and where you come from, and I love that your mom is such a huge foundation for that. If you think about a 19-year-old, I mean, I'm a 40-year-old mom, and I'm learning lessons every day from my
Yeah,
children, and the fact that you were both were able to share that wisdom with each other is beautiful. And Zion, I mean, I've met him only a couple times, and I can see he has an old soul, and
he
I'm sure
does.
that connection was there. But whether he knew her in her the way you did or not, I'm sure their connection was in such a way. Children have such a way of seeing right past all of the outside stuff,
Yeah,
and I'm sure he was able to see right into her soul for that.
he was. And it was a beautiful relationship. And I'm glad that he got that, you know.
Mhm.
I really am.
Yeah, and the love of music. I mean, is that what led you to your career? Is that where it started, the spark for you?
Yes. I mean, I loved music, but I wasn't like going up in school and stuff. Like I never took any music classes. I don't know if I've ever told. I can actually tell that story because it's kind of powerful. Um, in my teen years, I got in a lot of trouble. Right, just things I wasn't supposed to do, and that trouble led me to essentially, I guess there's no other way to put it than a juvenile prison, right? Like it was literally like a prison. And we had in this class, we had, or in this place, we went to a school. Like we actually had a school on the campus, and we went to school just like regular high school. And you had different classes, and one of our classes was like career development or something like that, right? And where they taught us to like balance checkbooks and fill out applications. And then one day we were watching videos from trade schools, and it was like equestrian school and motorcycle mechanic school. And then this video pops up for the school called um, in Orlando, Full Sail University, and their main curriculum was audio engineering at the time. This is 1993, so this was a while back, pre-internet, all of that, right? And it was one of those moments, Twee, where like you feel like the clouds part and the sun shines down on you, and you hear angels go ah, right? Because for as much as I love music my entire life, I never considered that I could do it as a career. Like I don't know why that never crossed my mind, but until that moment, I didn't realize like, oh, like I can do that. Like I don't have to play a guitar or play a bass or be a great singer. Like there's other ways for me. So that's essentially what led me into my career. That kind of sent me down that path. But my love of music from both of my parents, and it's not just my mom because I got it a different way from my dad than I did from my mom. But my love of music definitely helped me in my career, if that makes sense. Um, I just know music so well. I'm like a jukebox. Like you pretty much can't put a song on that I don't know. you know. So and yes, so that I would say initially that's where the seed was planted. Saturday mornings cleaning the house with my mom, and just how much music meant to my life. It was a part of bonding for people that I was close to. A lot of my best friends early on, we bonded over music. You know.
Yeah, music is such, for me, a reflection of where I am in my life, what I've been through. You could put a song on and it'll just bring me back to that moment, and it can move me. It can really just bring all the feelings up, and I love that you're a part of that.
I lost the last second of what you said, but I got the most of it. Absolutely.
It's okay.
Twee, give me 1 second. I just realized my laptop has to be plugged in. Just give me
Yeah,
one
no
second.
problem, take your time.
There we are. Hopefully. There we go. Okay. Okay, I'm back.
Good. So, the last thing I said was that I love that you're a part of that. I can really feel that love of music, and I'm sure whatever you produce and whatever you project you're working on, that love gets transmuted to when it reaches our ears, and our hearts and our souls, and I feel the same way about your mother when you were telling the story. It's like she started those Saturday mornings with you, and it has just built and built and built into everything that you do, and so it feels like she's such a big part of you.
Cheers.
So thank you for sharing that extra layer because we do see you. I mean, there was a point where we were every day connecting on the Clubhouse room, and so you do get to see different parts of people, and I don't think I've ever heard, you talk about your mom in that way, and so it was really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It was hard. I was still grieving when I was coming in the clubhouse. It's still processing and putting all of this together because the last few years of her life were so chaotic, and you kind of lost who she was before, and now you're trying to deal with this new person. And I never took the time to reflect on things like these until she was gone, and I was going through all of her stuff, and looking at these records and thinking about those things. So, you know, life is life, but
Yeah.
I
What
honor her.
that's exactly the words that I was gonna use, is that you're really honoring her in this way. And what would you say helped you through that period when it was chaotic and when you were just trying to get the stuff done, but at the same time connect with who she was before everything?
You know, it was hard at first because I was holding on to expectations, right? Like expectations that she was going to get bounced back, or that she was in there somewhere, or, over time it would get better. And once I released those expectations and I just accepted things for what they were, then I really started enjoying her.
Mm.
All small things that used to annoy me, she would get focused on something and can't get her off of it, or she'll just take off walking. And, like I really started to get joy out of those things towards the end of her life, and just accepting her for who she is now, and I just, again, it was really hard at times. It really was. But towards the end, we started to really enjoy each other, So that's what I would say to you. Just kind of releasing expectations and letting it go,
And
and go.
that's an important lesson for any relationship you're in, whether or not it's shifted a lot or something that you've been in for a long time or new. It's just the acceptance part, and those expectations that you have sometimes don't align with what is reality. And when you can really enjoy the person and accept them, then you can show them love.
Yeah.
It must have been so nice for you to be able to love her fully too and not have to have that barrier of
It,
taking care of her in a way.
yeah, it was. And there wasn't when she kind of pushed a lot of people away because people weren't. I mean, I guess if I had to diagnose it, they were holding on to expectations, So there wasn't a lot of people that she would even spend time with, And I would have these moments where she would give me a look, or she would call me a nickname, and I would have my mom back for a second, And I really hold on to those moments too. I really do.
It's the little moments. And then
Yeah.
on the we're talking about releasing now. Are you ready to talk about what you're ready to release physically?
Yeah. So, well, it kind of all ties in. And this release isn't so much physical, right? Um, because I have two things here, right? And one is a physical thing that I literally need to release, right? And I might as well share them both, right? So here's my first MP3 player, okay? There's like 8 gigabytes or something on this thing. Like, I don't know, right? Is If you look on the back, I don't know if you can see it. There's smoke. You see the smudges? I had a fire. It's been through a fire. I don't know if I even have the power cord for this thing anymore, but I just can't let it go. It was my first one. Like, there's so many songs on here, and like because that time for me, the MP3, just the world going digital, like changed my music life. Like, it really did. Like my mom had all those crates of records, and I had tapes and CDs. Like, you give me a little device like this, and you're saying I can have 1,000 of my favorite songs on there, So as just an item. I probably should let this thing go. But here's here's what I really brought. Okay, and this is my first CD that I released professionally as a producer. This kicked off my career. Okay, and I don't know if you know, Tweet, but around the same time, coming into Clubhouse, the beginning of 2021, I retired from music. I couldn't take it anymore. You know, I was misaligned with the energy. I spent all my whole career in urban music, so a lot of gangster rap and things. And like as I'm growing and evolving, I realized this isn't a space for me. The creativity part that I love so much, the part that is my love, I never have to lose that. I have a little setup right here. I can always bring out a keyboard and play around and do what I love and have fun. But in terms of like where my life is heading, you know, I'm looking more to get into alignment. So this whole this whole thing right here that sparked my career and sent me, down all these wonderful paths. I don't regret a minute. I met so many wonderful, amazing, legendary people, right? And I worked with some amazing, legendary people, and it taught me how to be a professional, but it's not a place for me anymore. And I've let it go. And when I say let it go, I don't just mean, oh, don't call me no more. I don't do music. I let it all go. The ideologies, the principles, the what people stand on, what they represent, the culture. I let it all go. I have to, right? Because it doesn't align with where I'm headed. So, and as I look at this, you know, there's one, two, three, four, five, six. There's 8 people in this group, and 10 people altogether that were involved with doing this project. And 2 of them are dead. One of them's in prison. And a couple of them are doing well, but you know, I guess that's it. I just have to let it go. There's nothing there for me. So there it is, Twee. Metaphorically and physically, 2 things that I need to let go.
Yeah, thank you for I was watching you as you were speaking, and it really seemed like you were going through all of the emotions. And sometimes it's real time where you look at the physical item and it brings exactly what it meant to you. That's one of the questions I ask sometimes when people have trouble letting go of a physical item. It's because it's attached to their identity in some way, their memories also, but also who they are as a person. And that was such a huge part of what you did. And so to honor the space and the decision that you're making, that's a very conscious decision that you're making to walk away and release the life. It's not just a CD, it's not just the album, it's not just the memory or accomplishment. That's a huge part of your life. And so to be able to do that, it also takes a little bit of mourning. You're mourning a little bit of your life,
It
but
does.
yourself. So, yeah, you have to do it when you're ready.
You know what the part I never share, and I realized this last time I said something about it, is when I retired, I literally was at the top this year. I had my biggest record. Things were turning for me. It wasn't like I went out on the bottom. Like I could have really hit the gas and gotten different places, right? The places that I thought I wanted to go. So letting it go, you're right. There was a mourning period. There still is a mourning period. I mean, I still see. I'm friends with a lot of these people. I still see them moving. They're still doing things that we would be celebrating. Like, and one of my one of my good friends that was around in this time and in the early parts. He's probably at this point top five most powerful people in the music industry, like in the entire industry. So it took a lot to stare at something that you've been doing for 20 years. You spent all these times. I have 10,000 hours in, right? I had 20,000 probably. And like you said, it became part of my identity. Everyone knew me as, like, when you introduced me, right? You said Tony Wisdom Gaines. And the Gaines part, Wisdom is my mother's maiden name, Gaines is my father's name. My actual name on my birth certificate is Wisdom, Anthony Wisdom. But growing up until 8th grade, even in school, all anybody ever called me was Tony Gaines. I didn't know my name was Wisdom until I moved schools, and the principal at that school said, "That's not the name on your birth certificate, so you're not going to go by that here." And my name changed. So when it came time years later, and I'm in music, and I need to pick a moniker. What are you gonna be? Are you gonna be DJ Jazzy? Blah blah blah. And I was like, no, this one I'm gonna do for my dad, right? So
Uh,
I go by Tony Gaines in the music industry because my thinking was, the world can still know me by that, right? And Tony Wisdom is who I am in, just as the person. But so Tony Gaines, so on my social medias, I put both because I'm in this transition period where there's people that know Wisdom but don't know Gaines and vice versa. So I forgot where I was headed with that. Sorry.
it's okay.
What was I talking about? Oh, I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know where I was going, but just I guess maybe the mourning part and like having to let it go and oh, this is where I was going. So the Tony that you can go back 3 or 4 years and someone that knew that Tony and you described me to them, they wouldn't believe you. They would say, no, that's not the guy I know. Not that I was a bad person or anything like that. It's just where my focus was completely guided by my ego. And I wasn't listening to my heart. And now I listen to my heart. And I don't even really remember that Tony Gaines guy. Like I can see CDs and I can hear music and be like, oh yeah, I remember. But I'm fighting hard to lose that whole identity. So that was the long answer to what I want to release. But there it is.
It kind of is always a long answer. It's not just a keep or discard sometimes. It's really the story behind it that makes you find meaning in it, find intention in your decision. And it's so thoughtful. Your answer was so thoughtful that it really shows how much intention you've been putting into these decisions because it's not, "Oh, the amount of change that it sounds like you've made." I mean, I know you as this person, and I cannot picture you as anything else. That's because you're so connected to your heart, so I can see that that's really truly who you were, and that's maybe who you were before too, you just weren't able to express it as much or even maybe uncover it underneath all of the ego and the lifestyle and those superficial things that made your life appear one way, but you weren't maybe connected as much.
Yeah, and that's the letting go part of the culture of the music. That's why I brought the CD, right? It's because I'm not music. I am not just a music producer. I am not a music engineer. I'm not someone that you can come to that can get you in different places. Like those are things I can do, but it's not who I am. And
Yeah.
in the last So I guess 8 years, right, since 2014. They have this. There's five, the top five most traumatic things that a person can go through. Like, I don't know where I read this. It was just maybe an article or something, and there was five things, right? And it was the loss of a child, something traumatic like an accident or whatever, changing careers, losing a parent, and getting a divorce. And in the last 8 years, I had four of them. I didn't lose a child, but I lost a parent. I got a divorce. I changed careers, and I was shot 9 times. You know, and that has, like, all of those things combined. When I look up around, that's why 2021 and like Clubhouse coming into my life was like it was the perfect time. Like, I think it happened for me, like, like, because I just made a decision. Like, I'm not gonna live here. I'm not. I'm not gonna stay in these emotions and keep, like you said, letting my ego dictate where I go. Because truthfully, I've always been this person, but the culture that I was attached to didn't allow me to show it. I had to always present this image of who I am, this machismo and tough guy, and all of this stuff, and it wasn't who I was. Like, I'm still the little kid dancing to this Thriller album with my mom, and that's really what's important to me, is good energy, good vibes, good times, and that left for the music. So it's bigger than just like I'm retiring. No, I'm leaving all of it behind. And I'm in a state of creating right now, and I'm creating this person that you see. And I don't know who that'll be tomorrow. I don't know who that'll be in 5 years, but I'm very tuned into who it is today. That's what's important.
And how do you find from my perspective, it's just courage. You've been through all of these low points or difficult points, traumatic events, um, and then you have the career that's going well, that's kind of the positive and maybe offsetting to a certain degree all of those pains. So it takes courage to walk away from that and not second guess yourself. How did you keep going in that direction?
I'm hard headed, and the universe had to show me, right? And so I knew for my retirement was probably coming for 3 or 4 years. I knew I wasn't moved the same way I used to be. And on top of all of the other things that happened, I've also lost 10 friends, nine of them to gun violence in the music business. Not like, we're not talking about like gang members, like we're talking about my music colleagues, people that I've been like, it's insane. And all of that, this can go very deep in terms of like how I got there and what kept me going. But learning the knowledge of the law of attraction kicked off a lot for me, because I started thinking, okay, here we are. I'm in this studio 16 hours a day, 12 hours a day, whatever. And in my mind, this is the positive part of my life. This is my passion. This is my dream. This is what I want to be doing. I'm actually blessed and highly favored to be able to do it professionally, right? And at the same at the same time, the messages, the energy, the conversations that are had, everything is bad. Like, it's not, there's not a lot of light. And after years of being part of those conversations, now I started stepping back and like observing them and saying, well, there might be a reason 10 of us are dead. There might be a reason why, there's so many negative things that happen in this culture just based on the knowledge of the law of attraction. Is simple. Like, you put it out, you get it back, and I thinking about that continuously and that showing up for me, it wasn't that hard of a decision. It was like, I just don't participate anymore. It doesn't align. And I believe in myself and I believe in my abilities. I believe that I can say, hey, I want to do a podcast and do it. I believe I can say, hey, I want to build websites or whatever it is. So that helped me immensely too, is just knowing myself and knowing that my biggest talent in music wasn't music, right? Even though I'm a music producer, I will never call myself a musician. I just learned how to use the equipment really good. And I learned how to see what other people were doing. And I'm a really good student and I learn fast. And that can translate anywhere for me, right? So those were the things that, just like, you know what, it's not even a hard decision. It's time. The hard part was continuing not to listen to my heart and to the universe tell me to go. That was the hardest part. So I hope that answered
Yeah,
your question.
it definitely did, and the other question that was coming to mind, which is I think you started talking about it too, was the keeping and the releasing. All of that we do on a daily basis. We are every day choosing what we wanna keep in our lives and what we're choosing to release, but also receiving the law of attraction, and I've shied away from it sometimes asking for what I actually want. Sometimes I don't know what I want. And so what would you after what you're doing today, what would you call into the universe for yourself? What are you ready to receive?
Honestly, universe looks out for me and I'm receiving it. Like, where I'm at right now today, I don't think I want to be anywhere else. Um, I really enjoy my kids. I really enjoy, helping people on Clubhouse. I enjoy sharing memes and watching people grow and so for me, just continue. Just continue. I guess no, Twee, I'll change that. Great health. Great
Mm.
health. And, you know, my son's getting married at the end of the year, my oldest son. And, my middle son, I'm sure he's coming next. Zion's 11. I have a lot that I want to see. I want to play with my grandkids. I want to see my kids get their first careers and houses. And so right now, the universe, I'm asking for health. And it's not something you ask for, it's something you make a choice and do. So the strength to help me with those choices.
We'll put it out there for you too, Tony. If you receive what you give and you're just giving nothing but light, it's gonna come back to you, and we'll put it out there too. Some good health and willpower to make the
Absolutely.
everyday decisions. Thank you so much for being here today, but
You're
also
welcome.
every day.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Twee. I'm very proud of you for this show. I like the format. I like the conversations that you're having. So I wish you nothing but continued success and growth.
Thank you for being a part of it.
You're welcome.
All right. So we will talk soon, and I will be back soon with another episode.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, wait. Tony, I always have trouble. There you go.